I think we have enough copies for everyone. We only have it in English, so we shall try to have it in French, German, and so on later on. And there may be friends who would like to help translate. Three kinds of approach to the problem of ethics. And the first one is the standpoint of religion, theistic traditions. The second is so-called scientific approach. And the third one is Buddhist approach. First is the theistic traditions, Judaism and Christianity. Judaism and Christianity teach that the world was created by a loving, all-powerful God to provide a home for us. We in turn were created in His image to be His children. Thus the world is not devoid of meaning and purpose. It is instead the arena in which God's plans and purposes are realized. What could be more natural than to think that morality is a part of a religious view of the world, whereas the atheistic world has no place for values. In the major theistic traditions, including Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, God is conceived as a lawgiver who has laid down rules that we are to obey. He doesn't compel us to obey them, but we were created as free agents. So we may choose to accept or to reject His commandments. But if we are to live as we should, we must follow God's law. This conception has been elaborated by some theologians into a theory about the nature of right and wrong, known as the divine command theory. Essentially, this theory says that morally right is a matter of being commanded by God, and morally wrong is a matter of being forbidden by God. That is the theistic approach. And then we have Bertrand Russell's scientific approach. This was written in 1902, more than 100 years ago, in his book, A Free Man Worship. That man is the product of causes, which had no prevision of the end they were achieving, that his origin, his growth, his hopes and fears, his loves and his beliefs are but the outcome of accidental collocations of atoms, that no fire, no heroism, no intensity of thought and feeling can preserve an individual life beyond the grave, that all the labors of all the ages, all the devotion, all the inspiration, all the noonday brightness of human genius are destined to extinction in the vast death of the solar system, and that the whole temple of man's achievement must inevitably be buried beneath the debris of a universe in ruins. All these things, if not quite beyond dispute, are yet so nearly certain that no philosophy which rejects them can hope to stand. Only within the scaffolding of this truth, only on the firm foundation of the unyielding despair, can the soul habitation henceforth be safely built. Very strong. So, according to him, coincidence and annihilation of man after his appearance is the opposite with the religious view, because in the religious view the soul is immortal, permanent. So one is the view of permanence, immortality, and the other is the view of annihilation, the opposite views. And one is the view of there's a purpose, a plan, a project. And the other view is that just pure coincidence, the collocation of atoms. They are the product of coincidence. So it's opposite views. And there is another scientific view that is more recent. The universe is some 15 billion years old. That is the time elapsed since the Big Bang. And the Earth itself was formed about 4.6 billion years ago. The evolution of life on the planet was a slow process, guided largely by natural selection. The evolution of life, the first humans appeared quite recently. The extinction of great dinosaurs 65 million years ago left ecological room for the evolution of the few little mammals that were about, and after 63 or 64 million more years, one line of that evolution finally produced us. In geological time, we, man, arrived only yesterday. But no sooner did our ancestors arrive than they began to think of themselves as the most important things in all creation. Some of them even imagined that the whole universe had been made for their benefit. Thus, when they began to develop theories of right and wrong, they held that the protection of their own interests had a kind of ultimate and objective value. The rest of creation, the reason, was intended for their use. We know now better. We now know better. We now know that it exists by evolutionary accident. as one species among many on a small and insignificant world in one little corner of the cosmos. The details of this picture are revised each year as more is discovered, but the main outline seems well established. So the idea of coincidence still remains in the so-called scientific view. I think there are a few scientists who do not agree with that. Coincidence. And finally, we have the Buddhist approach in just a few lines. And this is what these few lines we use during the last winter retreat. Both subject and object of perception manifest from consciousness according to the principle of interbeing. Man is present in all things, and all things are present in man. On the phenomenal level, there seems to be birth, death, being and non-being, but ontologically, these notions cannot be applied to reality. The dynamic consciousness is called karma energy. Everything evolves according to the principle of interdependence, but there is free will, and the possibility transform. There is probability. The one affects the all, and the all affects the one. Interbeing also means impermanence, non-self, emptiness, karma, and countless world systems. Right view allows right action, leading to the reduction of suffering and the increase of happiness. Happiness and suffering enter are. The ultimate reality transcends notions of good and evil, right and wrong. So it's only 7 or 8 lines. Good morning, dear Sangha. Today is Sunday, June the 7th, the year 2009, and we are in the Assembly of Stars Meditation Hall, Lower Hamlet, during our 21-day retreat. Yesterday we began with right view. We have heard that right view is the absence of all views. As far as you are still caught in one view, you don't have right view. And it is possible for us to review all kinds of views and to transcend all of them. And the noble path consists of right view, And then right thinking. Right thinking has the connotation of right intention in it. When you think, you express also somehow your intention. And then we have right speech, right action, right action means right physical action, bodily action, because thinking is a kind of action already. Speaking is also a kind of action, a kind of bring outcome. So right action here means right physical bodily action. Right please help me. Livelihood. Chánh tinh tấn. Diligence. Diligence. And then right mindfulness. And then right concentration. And right view. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Complete. We know that the thinking, the speaking, and the acting is what we perform every day, every moment of our daily life. And our life, the value of our life depends on the value of our thinking, of our speech, and our action. And in Buddhism, this is called a triple action. Triple action. Because thinking is the first kind of action. Because thinking can affect the world. If you think wrongly, the world will be destroyed. The world will suffer and you will suffer. So that is why you have to practice right thinking. And when you produce a thought in the line of right thinking, a thought that has no discrimination, a thought that goes along with non-discrimination, that goes along with interbeing, understanding, forgiveness, compassion. That thought will have an effect right away on yourself, on your health, on your mind, and on the world. And this is true. Produce right thinking can heal yourself. your body and your mind. And if you think in the wrong way, that destroy your body, that destroy your mind. So it's very important to learn how to produce a thought of compassion, a thought of forgiveness, a thought of understanding, a thought of discrimination. And that is right thinking. Right thinking can heal you and heal the world. And good practitioners are capable of producing right thoughts at every moment. And because we have right view, that is why it's so easy, it's so natural that our thinking will be right. And right view does not have discrimination. Right view is the insight of non-duality, interbeing, non-discrimination. And that is why thinking can change the world. And to learn the art of right thinking. Speaking also can change the world. If we are capable of saying something, of writing something, in the line of compassion, understanding, non-discrimination, all embracing, we feel wonderful in our body and our mind. And that kind of right speech will have a healing effect. After you have been able to say something kind, forgiving, compassionate, you feel much better. When you write such a letter full of compassion and forgiveness, you are feeling very well within yourself. Although the other person has not read it, you have not posted the letter, you have not sent the email, but you feel liberated, you feel wonderful already. So right speech also can heal, can liberate. And healing yourself, liberate yourself, and help to heal other people and the world. That is the second form of action. And the third form of action is bodily action. If you are able to do something in the line of saving, supporting, protecting, comforting, rescuing, saving, you feel wonderful within yourself. And you get the effect right away. And that is a triple action. It comprises the body, involve the body. It involves the mouth, the speech, and it involves your mind consciousness. And this kind of action, we call it karma. Karma means action. Nghiệp. Karma. When it is action, we call it karma hetu. Karma cause. Karma hetu. Karma cause. And when it is the fruit, we call it karma phala. The fruit of the consequence, the fruit of your action. There's a French philosopher called Jean-Paul Sartre. He said that man is the sum of all his actions. L'homme est la somme de ses actes. It's very close to this. And if we understand act action as a triple action. The way we think, the way we speak, and the way we do things. When we observe a orange tree, we see that the orange tree wants to fabricate beautiful leaves, beautiful blossom, and beautiful oranges. If the orange tree is healthy, and then she can produce these kind of things, very beautiful leaves, very beautiful orange blossoms, and very delicious oranges. And we humans, what we can offer is our thinking, our speech, and our action. It is possible to offer the best kind of thinking, the best kind of speech, and the best kind of action, because that is our continuation. When we think, when we speak, when we do things, we produce. That is the outcome of our being. That's our product. And they will not be lost. They will continue in the cosmos. The effect of our thinking, the effect of our speech, and the effect of our action will continue. Whether this body is still there or it has disintegrated, our action continues. Karma continues. Karma as energy, karma cause, karma effect continue. When you produce a thought, that thought you have produced bears your signature. It's you who have produced that thought. You are responsible for that thought. If it is a thought of compassion, forgiveness, non-discrimination, you will continue beautifully because it has your signature in it. You are the author of the action. If you say something in the line of forgiveness, compassion, non-discrimination, and what you say has your signature in it, you cannot say that, no, I have not said that. You have said that. There's a signature, your signature in it. You cannot deny that. And action, the same. Whatever you have done, bear your signatures. And they have gone to the cosmos. They are always there. So even if this body is no longer there, you continue. So to say that when this body disintegrates, you are no longer there is a wrong view. So the so-called scientific view that there's nothing left after the disintegration of the body, that's a wrong view. According to Buddhist wisdom, the view of immortality, permanence, is the wrong view. Because according to our observation, everything is impermanent. Everything is changing. Nothing can be the same forever. So permanence is not the truth. But to say that when we die there is nothing left is also a wrong view. And that is also a pair of opposites. Permanence, immortality, and annihilation. Thường Đoạn thường immortality is a wrong view, because so far we have not seen anything like that. Everything you observe is impermanent, always changing. But annihilation is also a wrong view. Suppose we speak of the death of a cloud. You look up in the sky and you don't see your beloved cloud anymore. And you cry, "Oh my beloved cloud, you are no longer there. How can I survive without you?" And you cry. You are thinking of the cloud as having passing from being into non-being, from existence into non-existence. But in fact, it is impossible for a cloud to die. To die means from something you suddenly become nothing at all. To die means from someone you suddenly become no one. But this is not the case of the cloud. A cloud cannot become nothing. It is possible for a cloud to become rain or snow or fog or vapor, water vapor. But it's not possible for a cloud to become nothing. And that is why the view of annihilation is a wrong view. And if you are a scientist, and if you think that after the disintegration of this body, you are no longer there, you become nothing, you have passed from being to non-being, you are not a very good scientist. Because that is against evidence. There is a French scientist who said that nothing can die. His name is Lavoisier. Rien ne se crée, rien ne se perd. And you know that he is not a Buddhist. Rien ne se crée, rien ne se perd. Nothing is created, is born. Nothing can die. And that is the nature of everything. No birth, no death. Because birth and death are, again, is a pair of notions. The cloud in the sky is a new manifestation. Before assuming the form of a cloud, the cloud had been water vapor. The cloud had been water in the ocean, and the heat of the sun created by the sunlight. So that is, you can call it her previous life. In her previous life, the cloud had been the water in the ocean, the heat, and so on. So being a cloud is only a continuation. A cloud has not come from nothing. A cloud always comes from something. So there is no birth, there is only a continuation. And that is why when we celebrate the birthday of someone, instead of singing happy birthday to you, it may be better to sing happy continuation day to you. That's not your beginning. Your birth is not your beginning. That's only your continuation. Because you have been before that. You have been there before your birth, in other forms. Like this piece of paper. Before this piece of paper appeared in this form, it had been something else. It has cannot come from nothing, because from nothing you cannot become something. And looking as a meditator, you can look into the sheet of paper and he see the forest, the trees, and the earth, then the soil, the rain, the cloud that nourish the trees. So the previous life of the sheet of paper you can see. Looking into a sheet of paper, you can see the cloud, the earth, the trees, the paper mill, and that is where the sheet of paper come from. So the sheet of paper has come from nothing. And the manifestation as a sheet of paper is only a new manifestation, not really a birth. Because to be born means from nothing you suddenly become something. From no one you suddenly become someone. So the nature of this sheet of paper is the nature of no birth and no death. And it is impossible for the sheet of paper to die. When you burn this sheet of paper, and you observe, you see that the sheet of paper will be transformed into smoke, vapor, and ash, and heat. And that heat is energy. That smoke coming up is water. And the ash going down. The sheet of paper will continue. So to say that after the disintegration of the body, there is nothing more. There is nothing left. It is a wrong view called the view of annihilation. So right thinking is a kind of thinking that is based on right view. And right thinking is free from fear, from discrimination, and so on. We know that with the insight of interbeing, the insight of no self, the insight of non-duality, the thinking will have the chance to be right thinking, the speaking will have the chance to be right speech, and the action will have the chance to be right action. And every thought, every speech, every act of ours bear our signature, and it will continue. It will continue with our karma, and that is why the notion of immortality and the notion of annihilation are just notions, and they have to. The view of permanence and the view of annihilation should be transcended in order for us to have the right view. Right view is the absence of views, including the views of permanence and the views of annihilation. We have lost someone who is very close to us. We are grieving his or her death. We have to look again. That person still continues somehow. and we can do something in order to help him or her to continue more beautifully. He or she is still alive in us and around us. With the new way of looking, we can still recognize him or her around, very real. The way we recognize our beloved cloud in the cup of tea. When you drink your cup of tea with mindfulness and concentration, you can get the insight that the cloud is your tea, very close. You have never lost him or her. She is still alive, very close, and maybe in a more beautiful form, different forms than in the past. So that is kind of vision, that is kind of insight that we should have in order to overcome grief. Because we think that we have lost him, we have lost her. But that person has not died, has not disappeared. She continues, he continues in her new forms. And he had to practice looking deeply in order to recognize her continuation, his continuation, and support that. And by producing right thought, right speech, and right thinking, we can support him or her. Darling, I know you are there somehow. Very real to me. I'm breathing for you. I'm looking around for you. I enjoy life for you, and I know that you are there, still there, very close to me, and you are in me. And we can transform our suffering. We can feel much better. We got to have right view. When we come to right mindfulness, samyak smriti, chánh niệm, we know that together with right concentration, mindfulness can help bring right view. When you practice right mindfulness, you bring about good concentration. And with good concentration, you can break through, you can understand reality as it is. You overcome all wrong views, and you get right view, which is insight. And it is that insight that liberates you from fear and despair and anger. In Buddhism, we speak of liberation, salvation in terms of understanding. It is understanding, right understanding. It is right view that liberates us. And we know that insight, understanding is possible only with the energy of mindfulness and concentration. And that is why practitioners of Buddhist meditation are those who generate the energy of mindfulness in their daily life and practice concentrated on the object of their mind. And then by doing so, they get the right view that will help them to transform, to be liberated from their fear, their anger. Suppose you have the fear of dying. And if you touch the nature of no birth and no death, you can remove that fear. And that is why your savior is right view, is insight. And that is the outcome of our your practice of mindfulness and concentration. In the beginning of our retreat, we have defined what mindfulness is. And we said that mindfulness is the kind of energy that can help bring our mind back to our body, so that we can be established well in the present moment, so that we can get in touch with life and the wonders of life deeply, so that we can live truly our life. Mindfulness allowed us to be aware of what is going on in the present moment, in our body, in our feelings, in our perceptions, in the world. And that is mindfulness. But why there is the word right mindfulness? Right mindfulness is there because there is wrong mindfulness. You keep thinking of the things that can bring you sorrow and fear. You have suffered in the past, and the memories of your suffering in the past continue to be there, and you tend to go back to the past. You review, you watch the film of the past, and every time you get in touch with pictures and films of the past, you suffer again. Suppose you were abused as a child at the age of 5 or 10, and you suffered so much. You felt that you were helpless. You had no means to defend yourself. They abused you. You are fragile. You are vulnerable. You were so afraid you did not know how to protect yourself. And that kind of suffering was created, and then you have a memory of it. There is a film, there is a picture stored in your consciousness, in your store consciousness. And every time you go home to the past and look at that picture or watch that film, you suffer again. You continue to be abused again, even when you have grown up. You have grown to be an adult. You are now capable of defending yourself. You are capable of using telephone. You are capable of calling the police. You know that. You are no longer that child that was fragile and vulnerable, without means to defend yourself. You are no longer that little child. And yet you continue to suffer the suffering of the child because you practice wrong mindfulness. You always go back to the memories of the past. You feel more comfortable going home to the past. Why right mindfulness wants you to be in the here and the now. Forget the past. Get rid of the past in order to live your life in the present moment. And there must be ways for you to stick to the present moment, for you not to slide back into the past and suffer. Suppose someone slapped you on the face 20 years ago, and that was recorded as a picture. And our subconsciousness, our store consciousness, store a lot of films and pictures of the past. And films are always projected there, and pictures are stored there. And you have the tendency to go back and watch them and continue to suffer. Every time you saw that picture, you are slap again, and slap again, slap again. But that is only the past. You are no longer in the past. You are in the present moment. That is why right mindfulness is the practice that helps you to be in the present moment. That did happen in the past, but the past is already gone. It's only pictures and memories. And if you keep going to the past and touch that, that is wrong mindfulness. We have to talk about the original fear, original suffering, and the original desire. When we were a little baby, embryo, when we were still in the womb of our mother, we felt so comfortable. The weather is perfect. And we did not have to do anything. Our mother breathed for us, eat for us, think for us. We don't have to do anything. And we were in a very soft cushion. Water is the best kind of cushion. And that is a period of no worries. It lasts about 9 months. That's paradise. But the moment when we have to be born, that's a very difficult moment. The situation changed completely. You touch the hardship. They cut the umbilical cord. Now you have to breathe for yourself. Your mommy cannot breathe for you anymore. And you try your first in-breath. It's so difficult because there was liquid in your lungs. You have to spit out. You have to make an effort to expel that liquid from your lung in order to be able to breathe in for the first time. It's very difficult, it's very dangerous, you risk to die. And you were able to overcome that. And you breathe your first. And you are fearful of fear. Your concern is how to survive. You are so alone. You are so fragile. You are so vulnerable. Nobody can help you. And that is what we call the original fear. We continue to grow up as a baby with that kind of fear. I cannot survive by myself. There must be someone who help me. So you lie there waiting for someone to come. And that someone may be your mommy, the nurse, or your big sister. And you do everything you can in order to attract that person to come to you. And your belief is that without another person around, you cannot survive. You need a person in order to survive. That person may be mommy or someone else. So you have a desire. You desire the presence of that person. Because there is a belief that without him, without her, that person, you cannot survive. The feeling is very clear. I am fragile. I am vulnerable. I have no means to defend myself. Without you, I cannot survive. That is our original fear and our original desire. Our desire is that there must be someone. And as we grow up, we learn to manipulate in order to attract that person to come. Sometimes you are given something to hold. Sometimes they take it from you. and one of your weapons is to cry. You try to manipulate yourself, you try to manipulate the situation. And sometimes you smile, but that's to please that person in order for her to come. So you learn a diplomatic smile even when you are a little infant. That's a problem of survival. You learn without knowing that you are learning. And that feeling that you are fragile, vulnerable, without means to defend yourself. You always need another person to be with you. It's always there. That kind of fear, that kind of desire, called the original fear, original desire, is always there. The infant is always alive in us with that kind of desire and fear. And in our present days, all our desire and fear are linked to that original fear and desire. If we work non-stop, accumulating more money, that's because of fear, original fear, that I cannot survive. We look for someone to love, to support us. Look for a lover, a man or a woman. That is also the continuation of your desire. When you were infant, you look for mommy. Now you look for another person to be your mommy, whether that is a young man or a young woman. So the new desire is only a continuation of the old desire. The new fear is only a continuation of the old fear. And there is a tendency for you to go back to being that child and suffer the suffering of that desire and suffer the suffering of that fear. That those of us who have a depression, those of us who suffer, continue to suffer, even if in the present condition everything looks all right. Because there is a tendency for us to go home to the past. We feel more comfortable with that home, even if in that home there is a lot of suffering. That home is deep down in the store consciousness where the films of the past are always projected. And every night you go home and watch the films and suffer. And the future is only a projection of the past with fear and desire. Suppose you come to a cinema, to a movie, and down there you look up here on the screen. And there is a story, there are people in the screen, they are interacting with each other. And down there you cry. You believe that what is happening on the screen is real. And that is why you shed a real tear. And you have real emotion. The suffering is real, the tear is real. But when you come up and you touch the screen, you don't see any person. It's only light, flickering light. You cannot talk to people. You cannot invite them to have tea. You cannot stop them. You cannot ask a question. Because this is not real. This is only a movie. Something not real and yet can create real suffering. The memories of the past are not real, are not reality. They are only pictures. And every time you watch the picture, you suffer. And that is why we are advised not to go back to the past and live in the past, get caught in the past. And that's part of the practice of living in the present moment. Mindfulness is to learn to live in the present moment, not to allow ourselves to slip back to the past in order to relive the past 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. If you have suffered in the past, and if you continue to suffer, if we go back to watch the film, we suffer again and again and again. Suppose you are a boat person. You have crossed the ocean and arrived safely and accepted into a third country. And you are now safe, you have a job. But you still have a picture of the ocean where you navigated as a boat person. Every time you see the ocean, you suffer. Because at that time you risk to sink at any time and devoured by the fish. Because crossing the ocean is very risky, and hundreds of thousands of people have died in the sea. So you still have that memory, you still have that picture taken. And that picture, every time you look, you feel the suffering again. But in fact, it is only a picture. You can get drowned, you can die in the ocean, but you cannot die in a picture. So something not real can create real suffering. And that is why we should tell ourselves, we should tell the child, the suffering, the wounded child in us, that she should not suffer anymore. We should take her hand and invite her to come to the present moment and to witness to all the wonders of life that are available in the present moment. Come with me, dear one. We have grown up. We are no longer afraid. We can defend ourselves. We are no longer vulnerable. We are no longer fragile. Don't be afraid anymore. You have to teach the child in you. You have to invite him or her to come with you and live your life in the present moment. That is the practice. That is mindfulness. Mindfulness is not to allow ourselves to get lost, to be caught in the memories of the past. Of course, we can study the past, but we are grounded in the present moment. If we are grounded, well grounded in the present moment, we can study the past without being sucked and overwhelmed by the past. The same thing is true with the future. We can bring the future back to the present moment and study the future and make plans for the future. But we don't have to get lost in the fear, in the uncertainty concerning the future. Because the future has not yet come. It's only a ghost. And the past is already gone. It's also a ghost. Why? To live with ghost. We have to live with reality. And that is right mindfulness. So if you have a friend who suffer, who shed tears, who have strong emotions, when situations are safe, you have to help him, to help her. My dear friend, you are on safe ground. Everything is okay now. Why do you continue to suffer? Don't go back to the past. It's only a phantom. It's unreal. And every time we are aware that these are only movies and pictures, not reality, we are free. And that is the practice of mindfulness. Yesterday we spoke about many pairs of opposites as views, like the views of being and the views of non-being. The view of birth and of death. This morning when we speak about the cloud and the sheet of paper, we learned that the nature of the cloud as well as the nature of the sheet of paper is the nature of no birth and no death, overcoming the notion of birth and death, and you will have non-fear. The notion of being and the notion of non-being also can create a lot of fear. Right view consists in overcoming both notions, being and non-being. And it is possible to observe, to meditate in order to overcome. Suppose we speak about kiếm cho thầy cái đọc quyển A Little Flame. We speak about the little flame that the match can produce. And we can do a little meditation on the flame, about the notion of being and non-being. We know that it is possible to help the flame to manifest. There are conditions so that the flame can manifest as a flame. Before the sheet of paper appears, we know that the sheet of paper has been there in its condition. So we know that the flame is hidden somewhere in the matchbox. And we know that the flame is hidden also outside of matchbox. Because out here there is oxygen. And oxygen is a very important condition for the flame to manifest. Without oxygen, the flame cannot manifest. And my finger may serve as one of the causes, one of the conditions to help the flame manifest. So we can already talk to the flame. My dear little flame, I know you are there somewhere. Manifest yourself so that I can see. We know that you are already there, even if you don't perceive you in the form of a flame. So before the manifestation of the flame, should we qualify it as non-existing, non-being? No. With our practice of looking deeply, we see that everything manifests based on conditions. This flower, she comes from a seed, from a cutting, from the soil, from the sunshine, from the cloud, from the gardener, etc. And she is made of non-flower elements. If we send back the cloud to the sky, if we send back the soil to the earth, if we send back the seed, there is no flower left. So a flower is made only of non-flower elements. And looking into the flower, you can see all the conditions that have come together and help the flower to manifest. A flower cannot exist outside of her conditions. So the flame is the same. When conditions are sufficient, the flame manifests. So it is possible for a meditator to already see the flame before its manifestation. That is why I say, my dear flame, I know you are somewhere there already. So please manifest. And the flame tells us, it's okay. Thay, the Sangha, if you help, I will. If you help me with the last condition, I will manifest. And then we are providing the last conditions, which is a movement of my fingers, and the flame is manifested. So you have the tendency to call the flame existing now. The flame is in the realm of being. But we tend to think also that before manifesting, the flame belongs to the realm of non-being. But reality transcends both notion being and non-being. Because we already know that before manifesting in its form, the flame already is there in its condition. So it is very important to see, to recognize the wrong view. Suppose this is representing time, and this point represent birth, and this point represent death. When someone is born from B, we believe that before the segment before B is belong to non-being of that person. That person did not exist before B. And when that person is born, we make a birth certificate. We certify that this person existed. So this person entered the realm of being. And 100 years later, hopefully, when that person comes to D, and then she passed from being to non-being once again. So that's our idea of lifespan. We only exist from B and D. Before that, it was non-being. So our idea is that from non-being, we can pass into being. And from being, we can pass into non-being again. But when we meditate on the cloud, we see that it's wrong. A cloud has never passed from non-being to being. And when the cloud disappears in the sky, it does not pass from being to non-being. It continues always. So the nature of the cloud is nature of no birth and no death. So the nature of your beloved one is like that. And you are like that also. And when you transcend the notion, the view of being and non-being, you get the right view. You get the right view. And that is why we have said that right view is the absence of all views, including the view of birth and death, being and non-being, permanence and annihilation. Suppose I want to light this this candle using another candle, and I produce another flame. And I would like to ask you, my dear friends, this question, as whether this flame, second flame, is the same flame with the other, or a totally different flame. That is meditation. When you take the family album and look for your picture when you were 5 years old, you see that the little boy or the little girl is so different from you now. Are you the same with that little girl? Or are you a different person? You look so different. As far as form is concerned, feelings, you have very different feelings, perception, mental formation, and consciousness. You are quite different from that little girl, that little boy. So are you the same with that little girl, or you are a totally different person? So that is another set of notions called sameness, otherness. In Chinese, cái gì biết làm sao rồi? Not one, not a different one. Not the same, not a different, totally different one. The other day we spoke about the seed of corn and the young plant of corn. And we can ask the young plant of corn, are you the same with the seed of corn that I planted before? Or are you a totally different entity? The answer must be, you are neither the same nor a different one. You are neither the same with that little girl in the picture, but you are not entirely a different person. So the notion of sameness and otherness is also a couple of notions that you have to transcend in order to get the right view. The other day we spoke about the Father and the Son. The Son might believe that he is a totally different person. It's like the plant of corn does not believe that he has come from a seed of corn. But the hard fact is the Son is the continuation of the Father, and he is his Father. It's like the plant of corn is the continuation of the seed of corn. He is the seed of corn. And the fact is that the notion of sameness and otherness should be transcended for you to see the truth. Now we come to a pair of notions that is so crucial in our studies of right view. Subject and object. When he speaks of a perception, in fact, in the Sutra of Mindful Breathing, there are 4 exercises of mindful breathing to help with our perception, to correct our perception, to transcend all wrong perceptions so that it can get the right view. And that's the last 4 exercises of mindful breathing. Hopefully you have the time to treat these 4 last exercises. We usually believe that there is consciousness, which is the subject of perception, and the world out there as the object of our perception. And these 2 things are different. There is consciousness in here, and there is the world out there as object of our consciousness. And science, philosophy and science begin by that. And in the Buddha's teaching, that is the basic error. That is the basic error. This is very important in the teaching of the Buddha. When you practice mindful breathing, breathing in, I'm aware of my in-breath. You practice in such a way that you are no longer an observer. You practice in such a way that you come your in-breath. You become a participant, no longer an outside observer. In the teaching of the Buddha, you see that there are 6 sense organs, which is eyes, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. Mind is also an organ, mental, our mental consciousness. These 5 are rather physiological, and this is mental. And the object of eyes is form, sound, smell, taste, touch, and please help. Dharma. In Buddhism, Dharma with a capital D means the teaching of the Buddha. And Dharma with the little d means object of the mind. Object of the mind. Not an objective reality. The world is just the object of mind. So the 12 include everything. In fact, we are taught that eyes and form bring about eyes consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, and mind consciousness. Mind consciousness include object and subject. When we perceive something, that something is the object of our consciousness. This is a subject, this is object, and subject and object, they manifest at the same time and together. So, in the Buddhist literature, when you hear the word Dharma, you have to understand right away that it is the object of mind and not an objective reality outside. When you see a mountain, that mountain is the object of your perception, of your mind, not something separate from your consciousness. This is very important. Because to see, always to see something. Always means to see something. To hear means always to hear something. You cannot hear nothing. You have to hear something, you have to see something, you have to think of something. And the mind, the object of mind can be form, sound, smell, taste, touch, whatever. An idea, an image, and so on. So if you believe that there is a subjective consciousness that exists separately from the object of your consciousness, if you believe that there is an external world that exists separately from your consciousness, you are caught in a kind of error called a double grasping. Double grasping. Nhị thú. Because you are caught by this and by this as two different things. So right view is the possibility, is possible only when you overcome the view of subject and object as two separate entities. I think modern science is on the verge of touching this truth. Many scientists begin to speak about you can no longer remain an observer standing outside. You have to go in. You have to become a participant in order to hope, to understand something. And the world, you think that is something that is not you. The world that you observe is yourself. The mountain, the river, the sky, the stars, everything is the object of your consciousness. Is your consciousness. They say that sometimes appear like a wave, and sometimes else appear like a particle. According to our way of inquiring. If we inquire in such a way, and then in terms of particle, it appears to us as a particle. But we inquire in terms of wave, and then that particle will appear to us as a wave. So it is possible to call it whether a wave or a particle. And that particle can be everywhere at the same time. It's like your mind. There's a well-known British astronomer. Physicist, Arthur Stanley Eddington. He said something like this: we are on a trip to discover, and we come to a shore. We are able to reach a shore of the unknown, a place where nobody has been there. And we are very surprised to see the footprints of someone left there. Before that, we didn't believe that anyone has come here, because this is the territory of the unknown. And yet, someone has left his footprints there. So surprising. So we come to have a deep look. And we discover how strange it is our own footprints. It's our own footprints. As the way a modern physicist said. The world, the so-called objective world, it is our mind. It's the object of our mind. And the Buddha said it in the very beginning. Dharma is the object of mind. In the Sutra on the four foundations of mindfulness, you study four realms: body, feelings, mind, and object of mind. Not reality, not objective reality. And scientists of our time are making effort in order to overcome what we call it double grasping. And if scientists can overcome the double grasping, if they no longer discriminate between the consciousness in here and the reality of the world out there, and then they have a chance. There's a very beautiful chapter in this book I would like to read to you. Winnie the Pooh. On this subject, I'd like to invite a volunteer to come and read. One of you has a good British accent. Please. Because Pooh Bear discovered also some footprints.
In which Pooh and Piglet go hunting and nearly catch a woozle. The piglet lived in a very grand house in the middle of a beech tree, and the beech tree was in the middle of the forest, and the piglet lived in the middle of the house. Next to his house was a piece of broken board which had "Trespasses W" on it. When Christopher Robin asked the piglet what it meant, he said it was his grandfather's name and had been in the family for a long time. Christopher Robin said, "You couldn't be called Trespasses W." And Piglet said, Yes, you could, because his grandfather was, and it was short for Trespass's Will, which was short for Trespass's William. And his grandfather had two names in case he lost one. Trespasses, after an uncle, and William after Trespasses. I've got two names, said Christopher Robin carelessly. Well, there you are, that proves it, said Piglet. One fine winter's day, when Piglet was brushing away the snow in front of his house, he happened to look up, and there was Winnie the Pooh. Pooh was walking round and round in a circle, thinking of something else. And when Piglet called to him, he just went on walking. "Hello," said Piglet. "What are you doing?" "Hunting," said Pooh. "Hunting what?" "Tracking something," said Winnie the Pooh, very mysteriously. "Tracking what?" said Piglet, coming closer. That's just what I ask myself. I ask myself what? What do you think you'll answer? "I shall have to wait until I catch up with it," said Winnie the Pooh. "Now, look there." He pointed to the ground in front of him. "What do you see?" "Tracks," said Piglet. "Paw marks." He gave a little squeak of excitement. "Oh, Pooh, do you think it's a woozle?" "It may be," said Pooh. "Sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. You can never tell with paw marks." With these few words, he went on tracking, and Piglet, after watching him for a minute or two, ran after him. Winnie the Pooh had come to a sudden stop and was bending over the tracks in a puzzled sort of way. "What's the matter?" asked Piglet. "It's a very funny thing," said Bear, "but there seem to be two animals now." This is whatever it was, has been joined by whatever it is. And the two of them are now proceeding in company. Would you mind coming with me, Piglet, in case they turn out to be hostile animals? Piglet scratched his ear in a nice sort of way and said that he had nothing to do until Friday and would be delighted to come in case it really was a woozle. "You mean in case it really is two woozles," said Winnie the Pooh. And Piglet said that anyhow he had nothing to do until Friday, and so off they went together. There was a small spinney of larch trees just here, and it seemed as if the two woozles, if that is what they were, had been going round this spinney, so round this spinney went Pooh and Piglet after them. Piglet passing the time by telling Pooh what his grandfather Trespasses W had done to remove stiffness after tracking, and how his grandfather Trespasses W had suffered in his later years from shortness of breath and other matters of interest, and Pooh wondering what a grandfather was like, and if perhaps this was two grandfathers they were after now, and if so, whether he would be allowed to take one home and keep it, and what Christopher Robin would say. And still the tracks went on in front of them. Suddenly, Winnie the Pooh stopped and pointed excitedly in front of him. "Look!" "What?" said Piglet with a jump. And then, to show he hadn't been frightened, he jumped up down once or twice more in an exercising sort of way. "The tracks!" said Pooh. "A third animal has joined the other two." "Pooh!" cried Piglet. "Do you think it's another woozle?" "No," said Pooh, "because it makes different marks. It's either two woozles, one as it might be Whizzle, or two as it might be Whizzles, and one if it is woozle. Let's continue to follow them." So they went on, feeling just a little anxious now in case the three animals in front of them were of hostile intent. And Piglet wished very much that his grandfather T.W. were there instead of elsewhere, and Pooh thought how nice it would be if they met Christopher Robin suddenly, but quite accidentally, and only because he liked Christopher Robin so much. And then, all of a sudden, Winnie the Pooh stopped again and licked the tip of his nose in a cooling manner, for he was feeling more hot and anxious than ever in his life before. There were 4 animals in front of them. Do you see, Piglet? Look at their tracks. 3, as it were, woozles, and 1, as it were, whizzle. Another woozle has joined them. And so it seemed to be. There were the tracks, crossing over each other. Here, getting quite muddled up with each other there, but quite plainly every now and then the tracks of 4 sets of paw marks. I think, said Piglet, when he'd licked the tip of his nose too and found it brought very little comfort, I think that I've just remembered something. I have just remembered something that I forgot to do yesterday and shan't be able to do tomorrow, so I suppose I really ought to go back and do it now. Well, do it this afternoon and I'll come with you, said Pooh. It isn't the sort of thing you can do in the afternoon, said Piglet quickly. It's a very particular morning thing that has to be done in the morning, and if possible between the hours of, what would you say the time was? About 12, said Winnie the Pooh, looking at the sun. Between, as I was saying, the hours of 12 and 12:05. So really, dear old Pooh, if you'll excuse me. What's that? Pooh looked up at the sky, and then, as he heard the whistle again, he looked up into the branches of a big oak tree, and then he saw a friend of his. It's Christopher Robin, he said. Ah, then you'll be all right, said Piglet. You'll be quite safe with him. Goodbye. And he trotted off home as quickly as he could, very glad to be out of all danger again. Christopher Robin came slowly down his tree. Silly old bear, he said. What were you doing? First you went round the spinney twice by yourself, and then Piglet ran after you, and you went round again together, and then you were just going round a 4th time. Wait a moment, said Winnie the Pooh, holding up his paw. He sat down and thought in the most thoughtful way he could think. Then he fitted his paw into one of the tracks, and then he scratched his nose twice and stood up. Yes, said Winnie the Pooh. I see now, said Winnie the Pooh. I have been foolish and deluded, he said, and I'm a bear of no brain at all. You're the best bear in all the world, said Christopher Robin soothingly. Am I? Said Pooh hopefully. And then he brightened up suddenly. Anyhow, he said, it's nearly luncheon time. So he went home for it.
When we beat the terrorist, we see that he has the intention to punish, to kill. And we tell him that it's not good killing. But he doesn't listen to us. There must be a way of helping him to see that killing is not right. So the first mindfulness training is to protect life and not to kill. But if we just advise people not to kill, that may not be enough. You have to inspire them. You have to help them to understand that killing someone is killing yourself. If you are inhabited by the insight of interbeing, you know that killing someone is killing yourself. And that is why the first mindfulness training, not to kill, to always protect life, should not be just a commandment. Someone tell you that is a good thing to do, but you have to understand why you should not do it. Because if you touch the insight of interbeing, if you are free of the double grasping, and you see very clearly that killing him is to kill yourself, and the intention to kill is no longer there. Until you have the terrorist to see that, you cannot transform his anger, his suffering. Because he thinks that killing and destroying is the only way to get a relief. You have to punish, because that is your enemy. That is the enemy of mankind. That is the enemy of your civilization, and so on. So that is why we have to present the first mindfulness training in such a way that help people to see that fanaticism, to be caught in a view, to be caught in ideology or an idea, you can be a killer because you believe that killing is good. Killing is something you need. And a person who is free from all views, a person who is capable of seeing that everything is everything else, will have never the desire to kill anymore. So you don't have to enforce. And that is why the mindfulness trainings have to be presented in such a way that can help the people to get the insight of interbeing. They can help the people to see that, to be caught in a view, whether that is a doctrine, an ideology, or a dogma. You are still caught in the double grasping. You are not free, and your action cannot be right. Otherwise, the person will continue to think, to believe that his action is right, in the name of God, in the name of the best of ideologies, in the name of best view. And in the Buddhist tradition, as we have seen it, right view is the absence, is the removal of all views. So our work, our working together for a global ethic should be in a line of thinking that our ethic should be an ethic without dogmas, without views. And the Prajna Paramita Heart Sutra is the beacon, it's the light that shines on it. You have to transcend all kinds of views in order to have the real insight. And with that insight, there will be non-discrimination, tolerance, brotherhood, sisterhood. And then the practice of the 5 mindfulness trainings will be true practice. There is no one imposing the trainings on us, asking us to practice, because we see that that is our path, that is our joy, that is our compassion, that is our love. So please help with this. Sister Pine has been joined with Brother Mitchell Ratner, Sister An Hương, and we need those of you who have the talent of editing in order to work on a revised version of the 5 mindfulness trainings. Where is Shuko Tung Nghiêm? In the upper Hamlet, here is Sister Pai. Michelle, please come. Tian Hương, come. And Sister Kính Nghiêm proposed a sister in the Lower Hamlet. Her name is Trì Nghiêm, come. Tian Hương, come. We need some more volunteers. You know that during the winter retreat we have already worked during 3 months on this, and during the French retreat we have continued, and we continue with this retreat, collective meditation, collective insight, in order to offer a new version of the 5 trainings that can be used by non-Buddhists. Có chuyện Hương đó lên này. And we have actually a working version. We do a working version of the 5 trainings. Maybe. So that we can have the input from everyone. So the first training and all the other trainings also should include the practice of we should not be caught in views. In the dualistic way of seeing things, so that we can remove all discrimination and fear, and that is the foundation of the practice of the training. So the training become a joy. The training become our love, our life, our happiness, and not something we have to do. It's like when we refrain from polluting the planet, when we refrain from eating much of the flesh of animals. We don't feel that we have to suffer. In fact, we feel that we are very happy to be able to consume and to live in such a way that make a future for the planet to be possible. So that is our love, our joy. And the 5 mindfulness trainings should be presented in such a way. Sister Tung Nghiêm, you may say something.
Dear respected teacher, dear noble community, we enjoyed very much during this past winter retreat listening to Dharma talks of Thay about the global ethic and the cream of the Buddhist teaching and what we can contribute to a direction that everyone can say, yes, this is the way I want to go. And we also had the chance to do the same during the French retreat. After the winter retreat, we made one draft, a new revision in February, and then after the French retreat, we had a group of monastic and lay practitioners who sat together and made a revision in French. And very recently, just before this retreat started, we made another draft in English. So I think this is the working draft that Thay is speaking of now, but we're very happy to have so many deep-looking friends and brothers and sisters here right now who can sit together again and find the most inspiring possible words for a world that is suffering and looking for a way out. Thank you.
Is it possible for your group to report to us from time to time during the retreat?
Yes, of course. Do
and ask for inputs?
Yes.
Please.
And we also have, I heard that there were some other friends in Lower Hamlet, Miriam, and I heard Peggy also. And I think there were at least one or two other people that I've heard about, and there may be others.
Yeah, please feel free to invite.
So of course, yes, we will be very happy to share our progress with Thay.
And you are planning to leave when?
Yes, that's the question. When we can meet from the 3 hamlets. I don't know if Thay has an idea for us.
He has also already made an idea.
I think I will try to come up with an approach, a proposal, and I will send to the other hamlets for their announcements this evening.